Hey guys, Greg. Uh, I'm gonna try to get through this without doing the and it's that's something I can't. I'm not consciously doing. So I know it takes up time, and I apologize for that. But last night, you know, I was going through all the clips that I have on 9/11, which is a ton because I was not a believer early on, and I was saving clips left and right, uh, even then. So, and over the years, uh, I've got notes, so I will try to be able to do this in some form of discernible order. Um, but as I finished last night for the doing the clips that I went through, finished up, which that video is going to take longer than I promised. I said today, and it's not going to happen. Uh, it's I've got way too many clips to go through and cut to try to string this stuff together. But something hit me last night. Uh, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking this stuff. Maybe I'm over analyzing it. But it was like I just, I guess, what you would say, had an epiphany. And it may be completely total nonsense, but um, it got to bothering me that when I was looking at these clips that uh, as I got into bed, something was bothering me, and I got to thinking, by looking at this stuff and understanding that I look at stuff differently, and I can see how ridiculous everything is, and then you wonder why everybody doesn't see the same way. Uh, I realized then that it hit me. We learn in steps, you know, even as from being children. We learn things in steps, and then we move on to something new and whatever. And I thought, uh, that's a form of conditioning. It can be used as a form of conditioning. And maybe that's just me, all of my psychology classes I took, and realizing that. I don't know. Uh, but it seems like that everything has become this mass uh, psychology experiment, a mass psychological conditioning experiment, or a mass psychological conditioning purposely done uh, to get to ends to a means. So uh, and then even those of us that are conspiracy type theorists, or at least the people that see things differently, maybe we're being conditioned as well. And I'm gonna try to see if I can explain that too, because I'll get to that as to how we are being conditioned, possibly, in order to get us to shut up. And so I wrote this stuff down so that I tried not to stutter as much, or stammer on something as much. So just bear with me, please. So let's start with 9/11. Yes, it was bullshit, and uh, it, you know, yeah, it was bullshit. You know that, I know that. But let's say, for the sake of argument, let's just say that's step one. Okay? These people never do things all at one time. They do things in steps. And with the way they are with numbers and everything, and, you know, uh, Matt and I were talking on the phone the other day, and I told him, I said, I got to thinking about that too then. And I think that might be what led to last night, is that the way they are about, this might be their trinity, uh, first 9/11, now mass shootings, and then who knows what else and whatnot. So let's start with 9/11. Uh, yeah, it was bullshit, but you got to keep in mind the results of the 9/11. They weren't. So now we have, I mean, they're very real. So we have the Patriot Act, we have Homeland Security, uh, we're at war, which we all know is big business. We have control of Afghanistan's poppy fields, and according to Wikipedia, that makes up 90% of the world's heroin. And that's not to mention the military bases that we have now that are located in strategic locations. And of course, that led to the Iraq War and the benefits that were gained with that, which I'm not going to even bother with because I just mentioned, I mean, there's reasons for what they've done. Uh, Sorry, cigarette's gone out again. But what if we go back and look at this a different way? Uh, let's go back a few years prior to that. Now, keep in mind I said something about conditioning. 93, we had a failed bomb attempt on the World Trade Center, which, looking back now, that was a ridiculous plan to start with. Like that was going to bring those buildings down. So 93, we have that. But keep it now, thinking now, looking back, you realize 93 might have set a precedent in people's minds, in their deep in their mind, their subconscious, which makes 2001 very believable to the masses. Oh, they tried it in 93. Now they've succeeded. So we got a precedent. Conditioning. All right. Then think about us. Those of us that see things different. Well, we have 94. We got Waco. All right, they're billed as nut jobs and anti-government conspiracy theorists. They were trying to take on the government, and now we've got a precedent for that. We've got nut jobs. And if that one didn't get the job done, then we've got 95 with Oklahoma. By the way, 94 at Waco, that was a violation of posse comitatus. But even then, that didn't matter because, like I said in a video prior, everybody loves Reagan, but people don't realize Reagan went around posse comitatus. He militarized police departments. So we got military on the streets anyway. But let's just say that's 95, the Oklahoma bombing, for the same reasoning, to condition people into believing that there are nut jobs. And then you got Ted Kaczynski, Unabomber, and uh, the anthrax attacks. You know, we're slowly building this precedent. Okay. Now, as a result, people just can't imagine. They can't even fathom that 9/11 was done by our own government. They just won't even think about it. They can't fathom it. Because 93, 94, 95, the anthrax attacks, and all the stuff I've mentioned, all that stuff's in their mind now. And we're talking about people that it would have mattered to. You know, at the time that 93 happened, 94, 95, those people, when 2001 happened, and what's happened ever since, all of that stuff was in their mind because they're old enough at that time to know that that stuff's going on. Even if they, and back then, the internet wasn't big. It hadn't really even started. So, you know, there was nothing to contest that stuff. Of course, you have some people that did. I mean, of course, what Timothy McVeigh was doing revenge for 94. So there you go. You got one nut job blowing up a building because the government went against other conspiracy theorists. All right, now that's where we come in. You know, that's why we're not taken seriously uh, when we see differently. Uh, and dare accuse the government of such a deed as that. You know, is okay. I'm trying to get through this so that it's not too long, and trying to get as much information to you that, so please bear with me. So 9/11, that's step one to starting. You know, so now step two. So now after 9/11, about 2003 or so, you get Patriot Act, and you know, right after 9/11, we get Homeland Security, and uh, so now that everybody can be a suspect, and there's one thing I want to say about that as far as suspicion goes. In 2006, I don't know if you're aware of this, but General Michael C. Hayden became the director of the CIA, and he just completely rewrote the Fourth Amendment right there on television, and had a reporter grill him on it, and still he stuck to his guns. He changed it from probable cause to reasonable suspicion. Well, hell, reasonable suspicion could be anything. That's just an opinion. You know, probable cause is you have to get a warrant. You have to see something to get a warrant, and that what you saw better back up what that warrant says. Now it's reasonable suspicion. That could be anything. That could be a policeman lying, saying, "I saw him swerve." You know, and then next thing you know, you're hauled into whatever. You know, if you don't like it, and believe me, my brother's a policeman, so I've seen how the attitudes of, and if you know, if you're a policeman and you're sub to me, you may not be this way. I'm not saying all are. They're not all that way, but my brother is, and a lot of his friends are, and I've got a cousin that's a policeman who just got fired for that shit, but their attitudes have completely changed. They are the authority, and you don't talk back. So, but now based on legislation, as the Patriot Act, everybody's a suspect. So what if step 2 is guns? And most likely any and all of any major resistance factor. So how do we deal with that? Or how do they deal with that? Well, here too we have another precedent set, because it's going along with the playbook they're using. And that was pretty much given to us using, even though we didn't recognize it, although I did at the time. I thought as soon as this happened, I thought, oh shit, this is going to copycat and be big. It's going to go like wildfire. And that's Columbine. And so now we've got that in the minds of people. It was unbelievable at the time. But now it's in the minds of people. And since then, how many mass shootings have we had? How many did we have prior to that? And then how many have we had since? So, and I know this seems completely unrelated, but I'm going to go back to what I said something about last night, and that's Kenneth Starr, which now I'm looking at as being another precedent. And I hate to keep using that word, but that's what it is. So what if he was just used to be, meant to be used as a precedent that makes special prosecutors look like they're worthless and useless, and they're not worth, taking the time to bother with. And they knew that at some point they're going to be doing some crazy stuff or illegal shit, and that a special prosecutor could really do some damage with. But what's the point now? Because all that money was wasted. And Bill Clinton turned around, and it was a silly damn thing to be checking on anyway. Bill Clinton cheated in the Oval Office. Let's hire Kenneth Starr, waste millions of dollars, or let's get Kenneth Starr, waste millions of dollars, only to have Bill admit, yeah, I cheated. But that might be a genius way to get that out of the way now. So the mass shootings are rampant, and now they've gotten extremely sloppy with it, which has turned us off, because it's gotten so silly. It's like we can't just, it's just we even me. And that's why I'm titling this video as a pitfall. Even I've fallen into this pitfall. They've gotten extremely sloppy in the way they've been carried out. So I'm starting to think, or maybe understand, why they're doing that. And of course, these mistakes and this sloppiness isn't just accidental. It serves a purpose, but I think it's a pitfall for us, because we get so fed up with how easy it is to see, the mistakes, and eventually, those of us that see it, we just get fed up and tired of it. And we just decide, we're done with this. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm sick of it. And it's that way with everything. It's like every little thing they do, they start getting sloppy with it, and we we talk and we talk and we talk and we talk and we catch this and we catch that and we catch this and we catch that, and eventually it just gets so overwhelming, and it's like I don't even care anymore. And then it's like I was talking about with the crisis stuff. It's like everything, something goes this far, and then you've got something else, and something goes this far, and then you got something else. Well, eventually, at the end of each of those cycles, everything gets so sloppy, and then they bring something new to the table. Something new that's just it catches our attention. It's, as Hamlet said, metal more attractive. Uh, so we get tired of it. We decide we're done trying. But wouldn't that be an ingenious way of shutting us up? Uh, and like with Kenneth Starr, the reason I'd say he's a precedent could be, and it's not just him. There were other stuff. There was other stuff, but nobody ever gets prosecuted anymore. I mean, you got Hillary, who should have already been hanged for treason, or whatever the punishment is for treason now. I know it's still death. I'm not sure how. Maybe it's lethal injection, but she should have been gone by now. I don't know if there's a appeals process for treason. But I mean, think about the Pizzagate indictments. When's the last time you heard anything about that stuff? Yeah, I'm gonna try to finish this up real quick. The entire thing is like a gigantic, very intricately detailed three-ring circus. We get so wrapped up in the beginning and the middle, and as a metaphor toward the end of each show, we start seeing the silliness in it. So we just stop watching, and we move on, waiting for the show to start in the next ring, maybe. But what if that's the intention? What if the silliness is the intention? Think about a magic show. They would, a magician would hate to have people like me and you in the crowd if we know the trick. I mean, can you imagine if now we're talking David Copperfield, we're talking high level magician, which I believe he has some kind of demonic help, or David Blaine and all of these guys. This stuff that they do. I've seen some of these videos on YouTube where I truly, some of the stuff that happens in other countries where they supposedly take on demons, and then they do this stuff, these crazy things. I don't know, and of course, everyone can say, well, it might be the ayahuasca or the bath salts that give them this ability or whatever. But anyway, I'm getting off track. So, but high level major magician in Vegas, and there's a few of us in the crowd. He doesn't want us there. So if there's any way to screen us and find us, he's going to get us kicked out because he doesn't want us standing up and screaming out to the audience how the trick is done. So just to kind of conclude this thing, maybe we should all go back and start looking again and pick back up on these shootings and things, and 9/11 is pretty much, the damage is already done, even though I still like to try to wake people up to it, but the damage of that's pretty much been done. And of course, you've got the Arab Spring started in Tunisia. We bombed the shit out of Libya so it could spread to Egypt, because Egypt was already starting. And I do believe that Libya was, like, you're blocking everything, so get out of the way kind of thing. And they used, Gaddafi as the bad guy, but it was mostly territory to spread through. And plus the oil deals that we had, the rebels really are the terrorists. But anyway, not to get into that, but Syria, you basically had to have the Arab Spring to get Syria started, and Syria is over a gas line, a gas pipeline. That's what that's about. And we're going to wind up involved in that too. Anyway, what is step 3? 9/11 step 1. Step 2 is happening now. They're trying to get guns, resistance, maybe, get the beginning of which I think we're already in the police state, but to get that started, lockdown type. And step 3, who knows? Who knows if there's even a step 3? It may just be step 1 and step 2, and then by the time we get through with step 2, we're done. So I just did a lot of thinking last night, and I got up this morning and I wrote some notes, and I don't know. Am I overanalyzing this? Maybe. But this has nothing it's not really about the Mandela effect. This is just about the conspiratorial stuff that goes on, and the mass shootings, and it's like that's the next step. So, and we're still in that, because now we've got Trump doing stuff that goes against what you would have thought he would have taken up for. I mean, you've got him saying, take the guns first, then we'll do due process. Okay? And keep in mind, I mean, this is just throwing stuff out of a hat here, but to keep anybody else, they implemented a new academic curriculum with all that core shit, which screwed kids up. Console games just increased in the internet itself has helped but also ruined people. It's ruined this younger generation. Think about this too. Was the iPhone and the smartphone strategically released about 2007? Facebook, YouTube, uh, even the iPod, you know, were all these things strategically released around the same time? Because that's about the same. They came out within a few years of each other. And now everybody, especially with Facebook, everybody's focus is on Facebook. You know, that's where they get their rumor news and then mainstream media. So anyway, I appreciate it if you're still watching, and you know, it's just some thoughts. I really, after watching all those clips last night and cutting clips and cutting clips, it just started getting to me and thinking that, you know, God, it seems just like everything is just a setup. Like everything is a setup, and we've been set up. And even those of us that see stuff differently, we've even fallen into, maybe they accounted for that too. And we've fallen into the pitfall of, well, if we make everything silly or show these guys the mistakes in some of this stuff, then they'll eventually get fed up and tired because nobody's going to listen to them anyway. We've already covered that. We set the precedent with Columbine, and we set the precedent with Waco and with Oklahoma. So nobody's going to listen to them about 2001 9/11 either. So, and then when you start, they're just nuts. So anyway, you know, like I said, maybe it's the way that, you know, I took all those psychology classes, and maybe I'm overanalyzing everything. I do that from time to time. I get very analytical and stuff. So anyway, I really appreciate it if you're still with me. I didn't intend for this to go 30 minutes or 32 minutes or so, but I appreciate it, and I am working on that video. It's just going to take longer than I said. I didn't realize how much footage I had, so, which is a ton. But anyway, have a good day. Till I see you next time, have a good one, and please try to be good to somebody today.